bet you're wondering how I got here. Well, let me explain. So I'm officiating a kids wrestling tournament yesterday in Concord, North Carolina, and this is a finals match, and the wrestler in red is winning at this point 3-0, and you can see the kid in the white singlet starts cranking on his toe, putting his knee in an awkward position. So one of my main jobs as an official is to keep the wrestlers safe.
Let's pause here. This is TikTok user Speed Turtle, and he is going to go over what led to him getting assaulted.
And you can see right here that the bottom wrestler is grabbing the top wrestler's right toe with his left hand. So he's putting the top wrestler's right knee in an awkward position and is bending it to the side. And there's a rule that says that's illegal. I could call that 1 point for red because that's an illegal hold, taking any limb out of its normal range of motion. I also have the option to call potentially dangerous, which is what I did. I'm in very good position over there, and I'm seeing his toe is strange, his knee's in a strange position, and I stopped the match.
Let's pause once more. We need more of this. And it is something I have discussed with fellow sports fans in the past. Explanations from referees afterward. Explanations from linesmen. Explanations from umpires after melees, after games, etc. The leagues, professionally of course, will shy away from this. And we know why, because referees could potentially be put in a bad light or give a bad quote. But, may I say, getting full transparency and a breakdown from the horse's mouth who saw it firsthand, literally up close and personal, is vital. Onward.
I call potentially dangerous, and I stand up, he's still cranking it, and then I instruct him, I say, let go of the foot. And that apparently alarms the bottom wrestler's dad, who immediately charges the mat and assaults me.
Let's stop here as well. This is, as we covered, a troubling, growing theme in sports. The domino effect is games, or matches in this case, lead to cancellation because of a country-wide referee shortage.
I did want to acknowledge a couple of people that had my back that day. The two officials that you're going to see in the video, Sean and Bill, thank you. I also want to acknowledge this woman here. I don't know your name, but you are awesome. If you watch the video, you'll see she is the first person to jump to my aid. She was ready to go. And then also thank you to the two women who caught the video. You can hear their commentary close to the camera.
Kudos to all of them for helping this man, as it appears, just simply trying to do his job. There would be more. So the man doing the shoving would eventually leave the room and then the building. But we would later learn who he is.
Justice has been served. Mr. Hammond was arrested last night in Tazewell County, Virginia, on the extradition warrant from Cabarrus County for the charge of assault on a sports official. Sheriff Hyatt from Tazewell County tells me that Mr. Hammond went without incident. He was taken into custody and booked into the jail and posted bond and was released. So he'll have to appear in Cabarrus County when this hearing comes up.
And in the end, Mr. Hammond would face punishment. The TikTok user Speed Turtle, we would also learn, in addition to being a referee, is an attorney Oh, said Mr. Hammond. He had this to say, which I thought was a very wise message of Hammond towards the end of his video.
We all make mistakes, and we all have to face the consequences. This didn't happen to Mr. Hammond because he committed a crime. It happened because he committed a crime and then tried to avoid the consequences, fled the state. Fortunately, he was apprehended, and he will have to answer for his actions.
It's good to see accountability for one's actions, but I have to reiterate and tell you the story of how this is a humongous problem in youth sports and high school sports from KSAT. Although parents spend boatloads of money to put their youngins into sports, the treatment of officials at the hands of parents spending said money has resulted in, per the National Federation of State High School Associations, some 50,000 individuals halting the practice of being an official. Think about that. Think about the decline. Think about the mistreatment that they suffer to make them not want to go back. The new norm, per the outlet, is less refs. No matter the sport, no matter the location, no matter the time, i.e. 1 or 2 at a b-ball game instead of 3. A baseball game with a single ump or none. And the onus being put on the parents or the managers to play umpire. Or even worse, games being completely canceled or postponed and then subsequently canceled in some cases. David Walensky is the vice president of the Syracuse chapter of football officials, and he made it clear to Spectrum News, "You're here to officiate a game," he said, "not to listen to a parent screaming at you or even a coach." Great point. Nick Lohr, secretary/treasurer for the Syracuse chapter of the New York State Association of Certified Football Officials, laid bare the very grim results. The number of working referees for some sports has dropped by almost 50%. And we know why. It's because of the mistreatment over and over again. And I'll get into how bad it is. What we saw initially was bad. And yet somehow it could get worse. In the state of Florida, the youth sports industry has seen a net loss of some 400 referees, per the director of officials for the Florida High School Athletic Association, whose name is Jeremy Hernandez. Some of the most egregious moments were outlined by the Tampa Bay Times' Lawrence Peace. One father socked an umpire, which led to their arrest. In the Peach State, one official got some 30 stitches after being attacked by parents at an 8th grade church basketball game. Let me reiterate. An 8th grade church basketball game. Colorado saw a parent spray Lysol in an official's face at a hockey game. And that's just naming a few incidents of what is likely in the hundreds, if not thousands. Another result, how taxing it is on those who are paid nothing, close to nothing, and doing a job that many won't. One official named Jamie Thurn spoke with NBC 26 in the state of Wisconsin and painted the picture of how the shortage affects their schedules. When their game ends, they are asked, "Will you please ref our game? We don't have any refs coming. We really want to play." So at that point, they're doing back-to-back games when they were only scheduled for one. Got to get to the arena, got to get home. After already having a day job, that is a long day, guys. Just to essentially volunteer. It's whack. The Sport Journal's Dr. Matthew J. Williams would conclude, and this is important, the real cause of the shortage of sports officials is simply the respect that is not given to the sports official by coaches, parents, family members, and fans. The behavior from coaches, parents, family members, and fans of yelling at sports officials questioning sports officials' calls, threats of violence towards sports officials, cursing at sporting events, and even battery towards sports officials is completely out of control. No sports official wants to deal with this type of behavior at all, nor should this type of behavior be allowed. This is the main reason, writes Williams, why we are seeing the pool of sports officials becoming smaller. State legislation, superintendents of schools, principals of schools, and county commissioners need to address this issue out of control behavior towards sports officials. He is right. He's 1,000% right. If they do not, we will witness games being canceled, cancellations of seasons, and drastic pay increases that will be demanded by sports officials for the abuse. 1,000%. 1,000%. It also hit me that, yes, the video was taken by someone in the crowd, but if he doesn't upload this video, it doesn't gain the traction. And then there are probably, because we've seen what media pressure does to a lot of precincts, to hold this man accountable. He tried to flee. What happens if it doesn't gain traction? What if there aren't that many eyeballs on it? Those are legitimate questions to be asked. Nonetheless, I hope, as he said, justice is served further. Whatever route he decides to take, I'm sure many are in support of it. If you can, please follow the original Speed Turtle on TikTok, as he has vowed to keep us updated as any new events do transpire in his case. If you haven't seen it,
the racism that I played here, when I played here, the difficulty of going through different places where we traveled. Fortunately, I had a manager and I had players on the team that helped me get through it. But I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
You definitely should. This is Reggie Jackson, Major League Baseball Hall of Famer, 5-time World Series champion, and holder of one of the best nicknames in sports, Mr. October. Last week, Major League Baseball held a game at Rickwood Field between the St. Louis Cardinals and the San Francisco Giants.
On a rundown edge of Birmingham, Alabama, Rickwood Field's weathered seats and retro light towers have not just seen baseball history, but American history.
Babe Ruth played here in 1929. Ty Cobb played here. So there's just so much history here, and I'm so glad that we're going to be able to share this with the country.
In all, 182 Hall of Famers have graced Rickwood's grounds, legends like Reggie, Hank, and Satchel.
As the Washington Post puts it, Rickwood Field is one of the prized relics of black baseball history, and baseball as a whole for that matter. Established in 1910, the Birmingham Black Barons of the Negro Leagues called it home. Then later, a Double-A team did as well. However, as much as Major League Baseball celebrated it,
I would never want to do it again. I walked into restaurants and they would point at me and said, "Can't eat here." I would go to a hotel and they said, "Can't stay here."
Jackson was upfront and honest about the memories. Number 44 would bring up a man whose name should be dragged through the mud for eternity. And that man was Bull Connor. To give some context via PBS in 1961, when the Freedom Riders came to town, he was known as an ultra-segregationist with close ties to the Triple K. Bull Connor encouraged the violence that met the core Freedom Riders at the Birmingham Trailways bus station by promising local Triple K members that he would see to it that 15 or 20 minutes would elapse before the police arrived. Additionally, the Freedom Riders were brutally beaten, and several suffered serious injuries. In 1963, the entire world would witness Bull Connor's brutality when Martin Luther King Jr. came to Birmingham to lead a children's protest against racial segregation. Connor ordered the fire department to blast nonviolent protesters, most of them being children, with high-pressure fire hoses, and commanded police to attack them with batons and police dogs. Jackson would go over exactly what happened locally in Birmingham when he was a pro ball player.
The year I came here, Bull Connor was the sheriff the year before. And they took minor league baseball out of here because in 1963, the Klan murdered 4 black girls, children, in 11, 12, 14 years old at a church here and never got indicted.
I highly, highly recommend the documentary 4 Little Girls, Spike Lee's film documenting the church bombing. It is available streaming everywhere. HBO Max, Hulu, YouTube, and many more. It occurred in the year 1963. The Triple K would bomb the 16th Street Baptist Church, killing 4 young black girls. Via NPR, the Triple K had planted bombs beneath a stairwell on the side of the church. Carolyn McKinstry later learned 4 of her classmates would perish. 11-year-old Denise McNair, Cynthia Wesley, Carol Robertson, and Addie Mae Collins. All 14 years of age. Says a lot, doesn't it?
I hope that every American, regardless of where he lives, will stop and examine his conscience.
President John F. Kennedy would address the nation after the attack. In a statement, he would say, and I quote, "If these cruel and tragic events can only awaken that city and state, if they can only awaken this entire nation to a realization of the folly of racial injustice and hatred and violence, then it is not too late for all concerned to unite in steps toward peaceful progress before more lives are lost." Reggie Jackson would go on to share stories of teammates who would help him during this time, white teammates, and how he slept on couches for months until locals threatened to burn down the entire apartment complex unless the slugger would vacate the premises, so he did. At a luncheon prior to the game at Rickwood, Jackson recalled the story of legendary University of Alabama football coach Paul Bear Bryant. He'd say, as transcribed by AL.com's J.D. Crow, Jackson said Bryant put his hand on the ball player's shoulder and said, "This is the kind of N-word we need to beat." Obviously, he didn't say N-word, he said the word. The coach would name top collegiate football coaches, Jackson would say. He meant it as a compliment. I didn't take it as such. Jackson, alongside comedian, correspondent, and ex-Daily Show guy Roy Wood Jr., who, again, I reiterate, is doing great in his post-Comedy Central career. He was asked if he were a better person, having come up through the city where Jim Crow laws existed, and whether he was stronger after enduring the social inequities in the city. Again, Jackson would give a very direct and strong response because that is what it required. Humans are not built for that, he would say. You don't put a human being in a situation like that and think they're better for it. I wouldn't want a white person in a prejudiced community to go through that, frightening their life to make him better. I wouldn't want a black person to go through that. I wouldn't want a Native American to go through that. I wouldn't want a member of the LGBTQ community to go through that. To go through that and think it makes you a better person, F you. He would credit manager Johnny McNamara for putting his foot down on restaurants and hotels because the policy was rather clear. If Reggie Jackson can't eat there, we don't eat there. If Reggie Jackson is not allowed to stay there, we're not allowed to stay there. Jackson would go on to praise Raleigh Fingers, Dave Duncan, Joe and Sharon Rudy, and others because, as he puts it, I would have never made it. I was too physically violent. I was ready to physically fight. I'd have gotten killed here because I would have beaten someone's butt and you'd see me in an oak tree somewhere. Noted by The Athletic. And very importantly, until 1963, just 4 years before Reggie Jackson played in Birmingham, it was illegal for white and black players to play on the same ball field anywhere in the state of Alabama. Lastly, from the Nation's Dave Zirin, who I consider a mentor and friend, and he is truly one of the best writers out there. Here's part of his piece for the Nation. Hearing Jackson's lived experiences safeguards what we can quaintly called the facts. The facts are that Jim Crow was terrorism. Terrorism that in myriad ways shortened the lives of generations of black families. Byron Donalds, the congressman from Florida, is just 45 years old and would do well to listen to some elders about the reality of Jim Crow. Elders like Mr. October, Reggie Jackson. The tragedy is that it benefits Donalds to close his ears, sneer, and turn away. I will end with this. As I saw this and took it in, I truly do believe, and this is why we talk about this a lot, is that Black history is American history. Native American history is American history. And for these new policies being put in place, where we are attacking African American studies, where we are attacking diversity, equity, and inclusion, where we are attacking admissions into higher ed, is intentional and by design to tap into the white grievance model that has been plaguing many in the country for decades. And you know what they would call Reggie Jackson for bringing these things up? They would call him woke. They would say he's a Marxist. They would say he's the embodiment of critical race theory, when he is no such thing. He is a living embodiment of the racist, bigoted, failed policies of this country that disenfranchise him and people that look like him intentionally to keep up one subset of society based on their skin color and put down others who don't look like that. My second and last point is this. Rob Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, put this together to say, look, we care about the history. I know that my tenure is coming to an end. I know that I have greatly failed you, but look at what I'm doing. Look at what I am allowing to be showcased. And it was supposed to be this moment of, yes, this was a thing of yesteryear, but look at how great we are today. Let's showcase those players, those Hall of Famers. Let's showcase prestige. And Reggie Jackson, who was not invited by Major League Baseball, to my understanding, was not invited by Fox Sports. They just welcomed him on the set. Took a complete blowtorch to it because this is the reality for him and many others. You know, I have one more point to make. Third and lastly, there are so many who reacted to this strongly, but in a surprising tone. Many tweets that I saw, even some write-ups, gave a sense of, I am flabbergasted that this happened only X amount of years ago. And I think that should really say something. Because while the language has changed in today's society somewhat, the motives remain the same for many.